I have succeeded and found another incredibly interesting person to talk to who I really want to get their views on vertical dramas, and that is the actor and digital producer Richard Cambridge. I'm going to ask Richard to introduce himself to you, the internet.
Hey, Jen. Nice to meet you, everyone who's watching. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm Richard Cambridge. I'm an actor, and I've produced a vertical short series and been in lots of TV, so I've got a kind of an eye on what's been happening and what might be happening in the future.
Okay, so the first thing we have to establish is you're British.
I am British. Yeah, I'm a British actor. I can actually work in the US as well. In this summer, I just recently made in Atlanta. I played a role in a real short series called Billionaire married a homeless girl. So I'm in that. I'm playing Sam Swanston in that one, and we filmed that in Atlanta. And I think that was released in the last couple of weeks on the Real Shorts platform.
Excellent. So yes, we will link to that below. Was acting always on the cards growing up? Have that always been where the passion lied?
I started acting at school, as many of us do. Yeah, I started acting, and I actually started doing some commercials and got an agent in London when I was much younger. And then as time sort of went by, I started to do some telly stuff and really got into it and really loved it. And I've never really stopped. I've been involved in all sorts of stuff. When I first started doing dramas, I did a feature film, and it was actually one of the quite early feature films, still shot on film. And actually, some of the vertical stuff now feels very much like those early days when I was making low budget feature films, independent feature films, and the mentality of making these vertical stuff is very similar, and it really has got that spark back, and I've really enjoyed making them because when you get a bit in today's filming with the bigger crews, it starts to be a bigger beast and it starts to be a very different thing. But when it's a smaller crew and a smaller, tighter family, I think it's really enjoyable to make, and hopefully that comes across on the screen.
So acting's always on the cards. Some UK audience are probably going to recognise you. Could you share some of the sort of the big projects you've been involved in over the years and where they might know you from?
I've done all sorts over the years, and do you know what? I was just saying to Jen, it's 30th anniversary of Hollyoaks this week. So I was on Hollyoaks for a little bit, played Pete Webster for a little bit. If you recognise me, I'm sorry for everything he did. I'm not like that in real life. Played a nasty bit of work. That was fantastic, and that introduced me to sort of soap audience, which is great. Since then, I've done all sorts of things. I've done lots of different things. Biggest thing probably is Gran Turismo movie a couple of years ago that was in the movies. In the theatres. That was #1 movie in the world when it came out. That was the Gran Turismo, about the video game, but about the real story of Jan Mardenborough, who was a real racing driver from playing PlayStation. So that was brilliant. And since then, I've done a couple of vertical shorts and a series for Disney as well. So if you're on Disney Plus, you can watch John Charles de Menezes, the suspect shooting of John Charles de Menezes. I'm in that, playing a police commissioner. But I do all sorts, really, and also I've got into producing stuff as well, and I really enjoy doing that. Partly because of it gives you a bit more of a say, but also because I think it's worth investing. It's worth being part of this new thing because it's certainly the future in my book.
Do you remember how you first stumbled on the vertical format? Kind of when was the first time you heard or found something?
Yeah, I run an actors website, actors app called WeAudition, and so I go to LA quite a lot, and I go to a lot of film festivals, and we speak to people. And a couple of years ago, this came out, and all of the jobs that people were booking and all of the things that people were talking about were like these low-budget microdramas. Now, they're a little bit bigger budget now, but in the time it was a very new thing. And people were sort of, I've been asked to do this job, I don't know whether I should do it or not. In America, they have unions, a bit like Actors Equity in the UK. We have they have unions, and you're not allowed to do these if you're a union actor, or you certainly weren't before this week, actually. And so these were coming up, and it was a question we were being asked a lot. We were being asked it in film festivals, and we were being asked it on the platform. And when we saw the auditions coming up, they were like, this is a non-union job. This is like a melodramatic thing. And they are a different style. They're slightly different genre in its own right. And so, a couple of years ago, I started hearing about these. And I've got a couple of friends who were asked to produce them, and they were like, I'm not sure it's possible on this sort of level of budget. But actually, what they've done is they've managed to cut the cloth accordingly, and it's a very valid budget for the sort of output that they're expecting.
So what was the opinion as well? Because I think this is crucial of just understanding what people's view of the content was back then.
I think, yeah, initially, I don't know. I've always assumed it's a sort of similar thing to Hallmark and Lifetime movies, and I think that's a good analogy. You know, they are not Gran Turismo, $100 million movie pictures, but it doesn't need to be. You know, it's a more intimate experience. They're more sort of singular speaking. The characters are heightened. It is more soap opera. It's more personal than that. You know, you're not, when we say cinematic as filmmakers, we sort of think of a Sergio Leone, you know, vista, you know, or like the escarpment, and that's not really possible on the little small screen. What we want is emotion, heightened emotion. We want to be dragged in, and that's what it does really well. So yeah, I think I've seen the evolution of it a little bit, and because I'm into tech and because I know tech, and I know the draw of, you know, a mobile phone and that intimate relationship, I was like, oh, this is going to work. This is going to work. So I was really interested in finding out more, and every time I saw them, I'm like, oh, I want to find out more about this. And then I started auditioning for them, and I was really keen on doing one for one of the big boys. I did one for Real Short over the summer, and I was really pleased I did. I think they do them really well, actually.
Yeah, once you've got the role, I think it's really interesting because obviously you have in particular soap experience, and that's something people have said that one of the closest comparisons is soap for just the amount of dialogue, the short time and the speed of turnaround. Would that be valid, would you say, to a vertical experience of filming?
Yeah, really valid. And if you're an actor and you want to do these, you need. Someone actually asked me recently, you know, can you give me any advice? I'm like, yeah, know your lines. You have to know your lines, whatever you're doing. It's just that's, you know, page one. But you're not going to get a sec. If you think on a big feature film, you know, you might get 2 or 3 goes, and then, you know, maybe 4 or 5 goes if you're a main lead at doing a scene. With this, you're running a whole scene, not just one line at a time or one shot at a time. You're running the whole scene, and you'll probably get 1 go, maybe 2. And that means if your performance wasn't up to standard, as long as you got the lines out, that's what they'll use. So there is something about that gives you something. I did live telly once, and the feeling is like, oh my, this has to work. There's no way around it. You can't say, I'm going to stop and do that again. And actually, that makes you good. It makes you on your game. And I think that comes across. It's really interesting, and it's its own genre, its own right. I'm not sure I answered your question.
No, you did. It was good. So my next question is, what are the adjustments then that actors need to be aware of for obviously the frame? Because obviously we're not working in widescreen and able to do big vistas. And how does that affect your performance and what you need to be
Everything is so close. Do you know what? I produced one since working on the Atlanta movie. And I thought, oh no, I have real eye on, you know, getting close to the other people, especially in sort of intimate scenes where you've got like a couple. And I was really keen on making sure that everything was quite intimate. And I said that to the director. I said, you know, we need to make sure that this screen, you know, this gap is, and I don't think I did it enough. You know, when you are speaking to someone, if you're on a 2-shot, you are here, you know, speaking to them, or you're, you know, slightly off. That's very uncomfortable in real life. That's very straight. If you're speaking, and say, for instance, on Millionaire Married a Homeless Girl, I'm Sam, he was like PA to the billionaire. When we're talking, I am speaking. If this is, so let's say my phone here is him. I'm behind his head. I'm here, and I'm speaking, and I'm having a conversation to him, and I could pretty much, you know, lick his ear. You know, very uncomfortable, very unnatural, but on screen, it doesn't feel like that at all. You know, we're in a 2-shot, and there's the two heads on screen, and you want to see the eyes and you want to see the mouth. It doesn't feel unusual at all. So when you're watching one, having a lot, like, how close are these people? It's interesting. Also, the way people stack them. I worked with Sarah, a really good director, on the Real Shorts one, and she'd like to stack people in like 2 people behind, and you see it a lot. You know, you see it a lot with the billionaires and their sidekicks or their staff. They have 1 at the front and 2 behind. It looks really good, and it just brings you in. You're like, oh yeah, that's, you know, you understand what's happening. In a film, you'd never do that. Everyone would be much more spread out. In a theatre play, again, even more spread out than that. You're using the space, so everything's more intimate, and that brings its problems, but it also brings its, you know, benefits as well. So if an actor was doing something, I'd say don't be worried about the proximity, the closeness. I'd also say about the volume and the acting, it is quite big and it is quite melodramatic, but you have microphones, and you can say things quietly. It can be very intimate, and I think that's part of the power of it. It's partly why I really enjoy it, really like it.
So I have to ask, because Billionaire married a homeless girl. You're acting with Seth Edeen, who is within the vertical space one of the biggest names.
Massive. He's awesome.
Been in sort of not just one, but several things that have got millions and millions and millions of views. I mean, Breaking the Ice was, I think, one of the verticals that really pushed it to a whole new audience and took it to another level. What kind of do you get from him? Kind of just, because I imagine for someone with an inquisitive mind as you're just kind of asking him like what his impressions are of sort of, he's got an amazing career based around verticals.
He's doing absolutely awesome. And do you know what? It's quite funny because he's sort of like, when I met him, it was like, very, very, quiet guy, really. We're just sort of chatting and going through stuff, and he's just going through his lines. He was reading a book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're doing really well. But he's like, what else can I do? What am I doing? Because he was playing college football and then got into acting, and I've always done an acting. I've never done anything else. So I might have done small parts in big movies, but what he's doing, I think, is really great, and he's got the right attitude, and I think he's already a massive star. He's got everything going for him. I can't say a bad word, but it was interesting. The way he looks at stuff and look at script. And when I was doing Hollyoaks back in the day, a long time ago now, we'd get a script and we might be working on multiple scripts for multiple weeks. So you could be doing something in the morning and then filming 3 weeks in the afternoon, an episode that's 3 weeks later. So you could have had a big incident after it. You get used to looking at the words and being able to sort of say them or read them in your mind. He was certainly very, very good at that. And when you're the lead in a big show like that, you've got a couple of weeks, 3 weeks at maximum, to be doing a whole feature film's worth of content. So you are really churning out the dialogue. And that is a skill that he was superb at. So, that's definitely an important thing. But also taking a character arc, being a character at the beginning and then going somewhere with that character, it's very difficult to do in any out of sync shooting scenario. Easier to do in the theatre, but much harder to do in a film. So, that's important to do that. But also, verticals have their own little peaks and troughs, throughout the episodes. And so you want to be giving it all texture within the episode itself. So again, it comes with its challenges.
So what is the step then between you going, I want to be on set, I want to be part of this, to like, what I need to do is produce and film my own?
Yes, so if anyone's watching, I would love you to have a view of the Duke and the Homeless Stable Girl that I produced for the UGC Shorts on Real Short. So Real Shorts launched a competition to make your own project in the summer. And I saw this and I was like, this is for me. I want to produce one of these series, and it'd be a good tester to learn some stuff and actually put something together with some friends. So we put this together in Bristol, just outside Bristol. We've got a stately home. And what we did is we thought, what would British people do really well that the Americans couldn't do so well? And we thought royalty stately home. So we found a big stately home, persuaded them to lend it to us for the day, which is great, and just shot in some stables as well, and put together a story that we thought would kind of work within the genre. And the genre we sort of, within the world, a duke that maybe she doesn't know is a duke, and there's a love interest, and they get together. So it's a really, really nice story. I'm really proud of it. We put that together in the summer, and that's now available. So if you go to realshort.com and you search on Duke, you'll see it come up. It's also in the UGC competition. There's a tab at the top, and you can see that there's a leaderboard at the moment. Please go and see it and have a look at that, because I think they're voting on it. And if we win any money, we're going to put together some more. We've got lots of plans. It's 3 or 4 scripts. We've got ideas for future ones. So it was a really good experience. We learnt a lot. We shot with 2 cameras, a crew of about 15 people, and much smaller than I'm used to working on big things, but actually a really intimate way and quick way of working. And I think we did all right. There's lots of things we could have done better, but I'm really proud of that, and I think we did a really good job. Please let me know. Let me know in the comments here as well if you think we did a good job. It's Duke and the Homeless Stable Girl.
Well, my favourite thing is exactly what you did. If you're like, right, what can the UK bring? Because obviously we know that they're normally the verticals. We do the billionaire lifestyle and the homes. And I love that you were like, stately home, bang. Let's just drop that in. I mean, it's
gorgeous house as well, just
home,
outside Bristol. That was stunning. Yeah, got beautiful grounds, beautiful gardens as well. Lovely people that live there as well. Really, thank you to King's Weston in just outside Bristol. Thank you.
But the other thing that's great as well is obviously you bring in Jasmine Keane, who's obviously vertical fans will know because she's been in quite a few sort of successful British verticals.
She was fantastic. I actually met Jasmine. She came to one of my events. So, as I mentioned before, I run WeAudition with Darren, which is an app and a website that helps people make better self-tapes for actors. We've got 70,000 members now. It's a huge, big community of actors helping each other with their auditions. And we throw events around the world. We had a huge party at Cannes during the film festival this year. We had 900 people turn up to a big villa. We rent out a big villa. We have loads of like entertainment and Jasmine came up to me and said, "Hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm a WeAudition member. Thanks for having the party." There's lots of people come up and say hi. And I was like, "Oh, fantastic." And I either recognized her, I think she said hi on social media before, and she talked about verticals a bit and said, "I've just done this project." I think it was Pride and Prejudice at the time. I said, "Great, let's keep in touch. Brilliant. Lovely to meet you. Thanks for coming." And I thought to myself, great. She's in that arena. She's in the UK, but she's doing US. Big vertical projects, that would be really useful. So when it came about I was producing, I thought I'm going to reach out and get her to have a look at the script and see if she might be interested. And Kaylee was in that world as well. So she came on board as well. And I'm really pleased they did. And it really brought something to that role that I think really works. On set, she'd say things like, this would work really well. Or they like this, they like the swoon, or they like and actually, the poster that we ended up doing, I was very keen on having us in the sort of formation that we'd done before with one guy at the front or her at the front and then us behind or something like that. And she's like, no, what really works in the genre is sort of the body contact. And she said, I put my hand on your shoulder or on your chest. We ended up with a chest thing. So that whole posing for the poster was her input. And I don't think that would have happened from a stage actor or from a big film actor. So I was really, really pleased that she could be involved, and she came down to Bristol and stayed in Bristol for our shoot dates. So really pleased about that. I think it's worked really well.
So what is your sense of the landscape for actors, particularly in the UK, but just particularly as someone who is obviously running something where you're in contact with actors daily? Because obviously everything in the vertical world has accelerated this year, and we've gone from pretty much being niche at the beginning of the year to now every single major studio is talking verticals.
Yeah.
What's kind of the trend that I guess within the acting community that you've seen of people who haven't necessarily been involved, and where are their thoughts now about verticals?
I'd say go for it as well, because a lot of people have been like, "No, that's not for me. I don't do that sort of thing," because the rates maybe and the royalties, etc., are not the same as doing a big TV show or a big movie. There's nothing to be frightened of. I think it is a fantastic opportunity, certainly for people who are starting out, to get on board. A lot of stuff is being produced in the UK that's being shown internationally. Of course, with the kind of the app, it's an international app, so that you could produce something in like Pride and Prejudice in the UK. It's produced by Octopus, I think, and then release it on a international platform, American platform owned by a Chinese company. Like it's a real opportunity. So I'd say go for these. The rates are less, and so your agent, if you've got one, might not want to be putting you through them. A lot of them get advertised on Backstage and on Spotlight, but also in the US, if you are able to work in the US, a lot of them go through Actors Access, which is the big website where a lot of the TV shows are advertised for actors. And so that's how I got in touch with Real Short and the production company Crazy Maple, who produced that in Atlanta. So that's not for everybody, because you need a visa to be able to do that, but there is opportunities with stuff being produced in the UK and all over Europe. So I'd say to people, if they want to be doing them, whether you've got experience or not, I think it's for you. It's good. It's good to be part of, and it's good to be working. I think people are worried at the moment that the industry is going down, or certainly changing. There's lots of worry about AI, but this is something that is creating work and opportunity, so we should embrace it.
Have you then worked out why it's working? So why are verticals making money, and why is this an area of growth when other areas aren't?
Why is it working and other areas are not? I think that's the billion-dollar question at the moment. A lot of Hollywood is asking that question. But I think it comes to the relationship with our phones. We are very close with our phones, and people are very lazy, and myself included. I would sit there without going to walk over and get something else. You can view something on your phone. People do it, and actually the dopamine hit is something that, is involved when people talk about the hooks and the cliffhangers. And the format has managed to do that really well. And certainly when we were writing Duke and Stable Girl, we were very keen to write in the hooks and the cliffhangers as part of the drama. It's not, and that happens. It really is. You've got 1 or 2 minutes, and you need to make it as good as you possibly can, and as addictive. You've got every second counts. You've got to fight for every second on that screen. And when I was, putting them together, and you can lose 2 or 3 seconds here, you can lose 2 or 3 seconds there, and they add up, and you really get that story down. And I think you don't have that. You don't have the liberty of having someone sitting in the cinema, and for them to get out, they have to be embarrassed and say sorry to people down their row and shuffle out and then go to... No, all they've got to do is swipe and they're done. So they can leave at the drop of a hat. So it has to be engaging, and it has to be addictive, engaging, interesting for you to continue watching, which is great. So they are. And so that's why you get a slightly melodramatic and you get a slightly elevated performance and it's slightly elevated, ridiculous stories. But you know what? It's drama. It's fantasy. So what? It can be a ridiculous story. Doesn't matter. I watch a space thing. I'm not, I watch an alien movie. I'm not going to think that aliens really exist. It's taking you out. It's romance. It's thriller. It's all the things that work really well on a small screen.
Oh, you just nailed that. That's such a good answer. My question is, okay, so obviously China's ahead in the cycle. China's about 10 years ahead into the short drama vertical cycle, obviously. And I would say America's maybe 9 months to a year ahead of the UK as well. So there are people who watch vertical dramas in the UK. There's kind of been a few articles in the UK, which I've sort of managed to get out there. It's not really quite tipped into the mainstream yet in the UK. What do you think vertical dramas would need to deliver in the UK to get watched? Because that's quite a specific, possibly challenging audience.
Yeah, there might be a different type of film that works in the UK that doesn't work in the US. From someone that works in the US and has a business in the US, the sort of the promise of the billionaire works well in the US because everyone is frightened to death of not having healthcare and whatever, and not having a salary and not being able to survive. We don't have that in the UK so much. It's a slightly more. It's a slightly different culture, so maybe the films will be slightly different that resonate there. I'd be interested to see some reality stuff happening on the vertical platforms. Actually, I think they're pushing out to that, and maybe some content that works for a younger audience. At the moment, it tends to be the soap opera audience. It tends to be skewed a little bit towards the romance, and it tends to be a little bit the older audience. I think works really well. But maybe the content will happen that will encompass some of the themes and the things that the UK audiences like. I don't know what they're going to be. I think if I did know what they're going to be, I'd be making them. Maybe reality, or maybe just, thrillers and dramas that work well. I do think a murder mystery would work really well. I think a murder mystery would work really well on the platform because you could have a number of episodes focusing on a number of different characters. You could have, who done it sort of thing where you want to know who did it, so you want to watch to the end. That would work very well. And that would work very well with the stately homes and the sort of gentry, historical stuff that we have in the UK. I'm going to produce one of those. I'm going to make a note of that. Where's my pen?
I'm sold. I'm watching it. There's enough rooms. Think night.
But yeah, I think that would work really well. But what tends to be on the platforms at the moment, certainly the big ones, is the billionaire playboys, contract marrying people. I'm not sure that plays so well in the UK just because of our culture. But who knows?
Because the interesting thing is if you compare soaps, so obviously if you look at American soaps, generally glamorous, affluent backgrounds, whereas obviously UK soaps, I would say probably plot lines fairly similar, full-on plot lines, but the UK soap setting tends to be more kind of working class, gritty. So that I was kind of wondering if that's almost where the verticals need to go, but then there's also a lot of humour thrown in as well.
Now, at the moment, there's not much humour. I don't know why that is. I don't think it sells. Or certainly, they haven't put it on the platforms and pushed comedy movies, and I don't know why that is. They are doing the power play stuff, and they are doing the sort of aspirational, glamorous stuff, and the who, what will happen is very, very, is a very good sort of hook, isn't it? But yeah, you're right. The soap operas in the UK, yeah, they're around the pub, they're around the market, EastEnders and Coronation Street, down the cobbled streets with the rovers. They are working class kind of origins, aren't they? I wonder if that will work. A lot of the movies that have come out of, very good films that come out of the UK have been gritty urban dramas or gritty working class dramas as well. I think we do that very well. So maybe that's something that will work. Yeah. Do people want to watch on their phone horrendous scenarios and people being sad? Or do they want to watch glamorous people having lovely lives and making the best of it? I'm not sure.
I kind of now decided we need the cast of The Only Way is Essex or Made in Chelsea and Verticals, and that's how you bring the glamour in the UK, isn't it? Maybe that's where we go, that kind of route. So, yeah.
I think, have aspirational locations, and I don't know, I'd watch something on the beach, someone doing something, people showing off their best selves on the beach. That could be nice to be looking out on the bus in London on a rainy December. I think that could work. Because
that's the interesting thing, that the what the UK viewer watches is often quite different from what the UK exports to the rest of the world, which is obviously, Downton Abbey, stately homes, Paddington, but then what actually, so it's just interesting sort of how we get Verticals at that tipping point in the UK that the majority of people are watching them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Four Weddings and a Funeral is quintessentially British, that sort of, that same thing with Downton and all those things, like you say, export really well. So filmmakers, maybe they're having an eye on the rest of the world, but then for an audience to find that in the UK, the audience in America is obviously huge. So it makes sense that UK filmmakers might want to target an American audience. Does it make sense that an American production company wants to target a UK audience? Maybe the numbers aren't there. Maybe it's not worth their while.
Yeah. So going forward, this is crystal ball time. What do you think the future holds for you, both within Verticals and kind of where do you see things going over the next... I'm only going to ask the next few months because we all know how fast everything moves.
I have absolutely no idea. If I had a crystal ball and it was accurate, I would be making exactly what it said. Yeah. I have no idea. I hope that the audience can continue to engage on them. I think it's great that we're watching produced content as opposed to, dross of people, doing nothing. I think it's great that we're having actors and creativity and people are making things that people want to watch. I love to be part of that. I love to engage with that. I want to support that, and I will support anyone that does that, and especially UK producers that want to do that. And, US producers or whoever around the world. I think we're moving into a time of a new genre, and I think it's a really exciting time, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Awesome answer. So I just want to ask you some more just general questions.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, as someone who loves acting and producing, who inspires you? So who are kind of the actors and actresses that you will turn up to watch?
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the people that have always inspired me, the people that produce some stuff as well. And as I've got older, I've realised that actually it's the Sandra Bullocks and the Tom Cruises that actually have owned their star and made their own stuff. I'm like, good on you, because no one can take that off them. When you turn up to a Tom Cruise film, he has produced that, he's been on that, he's taken that Mission Impossible from, a TV series into hit. He's owned that in his world. No one can take that from him. He was a star before. I get that. I think Hugh Grant's done a really good job as well about taking a British gent and taking that in his own way. And lots of people like that. There's hundreds of actors that I think are fantastic. But it's those people who have they've made their own stuff and they've taken the agency and done it themselves. I see it with WeAudition all the time. We used to run a program called Ones to Watch where we look at actors who we thought, you're going to do really well. You might have had a TV series or done really well, but you're going to be a star of the future. We called it Ones to Watch. And some of those people, I'm absolutely in awe of how they're doing now. Like my friend Jimmy, he's, gone on to do Bel Air and massive TV shows, and he's on the Tower in the UK. And just people who have stuck with it and they've believed in it and they're doing good work. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And a lot of actors get into it thinking they're going to be famous. And that doesn't really happen necessarily like that. People who have managed to, take a story and stick with it, I think they are really aspirational. So I really aspire to those people. And yeah, I think there's some good work coming out, and a lot of it is produced and will be produced as in this vertical sense by actors, by creators, and they'll be producing their own stuff, directing their own stuff, acting in their own stuff, and putting stuff together with small groups of friends. I think that's the future, and I really think that's very admirable.
Amazing. You kind of gave a little bit of an answer there, but yeah, I was going to say top mistakes that you see people making in the industry.
In the industry, I don't know. I make mistakes all the time.
Or just ones that, like, if a young actor actress comes to you and if you're like a few pointers, do this, do that, what would you say?
It's really difficult because I think sometimes people break the rules and then they do really well. I don't think there are any rules. Something that I've been doing lately, I've been having an American accent coach for many years and going for American roles for years, literally 10 years. And I booked one ever. I did a movie. It's actually coming out next year. I did a movie that was an American, and that was the only one. And do you know what? About 6 months, a year ago, I just said, I'm just going to do things, even if it says American, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put in my tape as me, or I'm going to send my show reel, I'm going to submit for this, because I'll do a better job. I'll be more authentic, and people want authentic people now. And do you know what? The auditions just started coming in, and the work started coming in, and I started getting offers, and I was like, oh, hang on, what? I should have been doing this before, just being authentically me, as opposed to trying to be what I think that they want. So I think people do that all the time when they look at a script and they think, I think they want this person, so I'm going to try and be that person. That works in the theatre, and it works in rep theatre, but it doesn't work when you've got 35,000 people going for one job, and they want the one, it's winner takes all. So a job I went for, I had a recall last week, and I'm really proud of myself. I had a recall on a job, and the casting director posted that there was 35,000 headshot submissions for that one job. And I got an audition, and I was thrilled to bits. And I put that in, and it was for a French guy. And I said, I'm European, that's fine. Put in the audition, got asked to audition, great. Did a tape in British, fine. Sent it in, got asked back. So I was one of a handful of people that did a chemistry read, so that's probably 10 people, maybe less. I met all the people. We spent an hour going through, meeting the casting director, but not only that, the director, the producers, the writer, the main star, like everyone. So it must have taken a lot of effort for them all to be there in the same room. And it wasn't what they asked for. I did it British, and it was authentically me, and the character was very me. I think that's the way forward. I'm going to continue doing that because I just want to unapologetically be me and who I am and move that forward, because if it's winner takes all, I can be most authentically me because I'm the only person that is.
I love that. That's such an interesting answer. And then finally, I just want to give you an opportunity, because obviously you've mentioned that you found and run WeAudition. But for people who don't know, could you explain what it is and how they can use it and how it will help them?
If you are an actor, it is a phenomenal game changer. We say we've been saving relationships since we started. It's 10 years old now. We started in 2015. And it started out as a little website for actors to help each other run their self-tapes. Now, we've grown since then. We've got, as I said, 70,000-ish people on. It's an app and it's a website. And if you want to have someone help you read the other lines for your audition, this is for you. So if you've got an audition, say Spielberg phones you up, sends you a self-tape, whatever, wouldn't phone you up. You get a self-tape, you get the sides. What you might do is ask your friend or your mum or your flatmate to read the other lines, to be your reader. You might get an actor friend to come over and do it. Or rather than do that, definitely don't ask your husband or wife or your partner. Definitely don't do that. Get someone on WeAudition. You can hire, like Uber, you can hire a reader to read the other lines. You just go onto the thing, you upload your script, you find someone who might suit the other lines. They might have even been in the show that you're auditioning for. They will be there within 30 seconds to a minute. They will be online. They will read those lines. You pay them, you tip them. Some are free. Some you don't pay anything. Some say what their money is. You can also be a reader. So if you're an actor and you want to earn money being a reader, sign up. You can be a reader. And there's people online 24/7. There's always people available. It's like Uber for a reader. And it's changed my life. It's so good. I would never use a real person for an audition. I would always use a WeAudition reader now. And it's absolutely phenomenal.
That's just
okay, sales pitch over.
No, it's a very good sales pitch, and I like the key one. We've saved relationships. We're saving relationships around the world.
Don't read with your partner. Do not read your audition with your partner. Don't.
yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, because you've just given so many insights into kind of where you see verticals going.
You're welcome, and thank you for your Instagram, and thank you for supporting. I think it's really interesting, and your YouTube content and your interviews. I've got an insight into it, this past year or so through your channel. So it's really nice to meet you, and thanks for asking me on.